A silent student was often ignored. In the bustling, cacophonous halls of Northwood High, where popularity was measured in decibels and the social currency was spent in loud laughter and the boisterous greetings, there was a boy named Leo. He moved through the crowded corridors like a ghost, a whisper in a hurricane. His presence was so understated that he seemed to occupy a different plane of existence, one that ran parallel to the vibrant, noisy world of his peers but rarely intersected with it. Teachers, juggling classes of 30 or more, often overlooked him. Their eyes would scan the room, their gazes sliding past him as if he were part of the furniture, a beige wall, a forgotten textbook on a dusty shelf. When they called for volunteers, their eyes sought out the waving hands, the eager faces, the students who practically vibrated with the nitty basin and he heard. Leo's hand never went up. He sat, he listened, and he absorbed. His silence was not born of shyness or fear, though men assumed it was. It was a choice, a carefully cultivated state of being. While others filled the eye with chatter about weekend parties, fleeting crushes, and the latest social media drama, Leo was an observer. He watched the intricate dance of high school society from the periphery, noticing the subtle shifts in alliances, the unspoken tensions between friends, the fleeting moments of genuine kindness that were often lost in the general din. His classmates, when they noticed him at all, saw a blank slate. They projected their own assumptions onto him. He was weird, he was arrogant, he was lonely. They mistook his quietude for emptiness, his stillness for apathy. He was the kid number one picked for group projects until the teacher assigned him to a team, where he would be met with sighs and the exchanged glances of commiseration. They didn't know him, and in the fast-paced world of adolescence, they didn't have the time or the inclination to find out. Being ignored became a part of his daily routine, a cloak of invisibility he wore without complaint. It was a lonely existence, at times, but it was also a space he had learned to inhabit, to make his own. In the quiet, he found a unique kind of freedom, but discipline and the focus made him outstanding. While the world around him buzzed with distraction, Leo was building an empire within himself. His discipline was a fortress, constructed brick by meticulous brick, day after day. His alarm clock didn't scream for attention. It chirped softly at pukul 5 a.m., a private quality accent that only he could hear. Before the sun had even begun to spill its golden light over the sleepy town, Leo was already at his desk. It was his sanctuary, a small wooden island in a sea of quiet. Sir, he didn't just study. He engaged in a deliberate, methodical conquest of knowledge. He read textbooks not as chores, but as maps to new worlds. He solved complex equations not for the grade, but for the elegant, irrefutable logic they revealed. His focus was a laser beam, cutting through the fog of teenage lethargy and the procrastination. He saw his education not as a requirement to be endured, but as a tool to be sharpened. This unwavering dedication began to manifest in ways that were impossible to ignore, even for those who had perfected the art of overlooking him. In mathematics, he began to see patterns and solutions that eluded everyone else, including his teacher. He would approach Mr. Harrison after class, not with a question, but with an alternative proof, a more elegant method he had devised in the quiet laboratory of his mind. Mr. Harrison, initially taken aback, soon began to look forward to these quiet conversations, recognizing the profound depth of understanding that lay behind Leo's silent demeanor. In literature class, while others skimmed the assigned novels, Leo devoured them. He analyzed sentence structure, traced thematic arcs, and he wrestled with the philosophical questions posed by the authors. His essays were not the typical regurgitation of class notes. They were masterful pieces of literary analysis, insightful and original, earning him silent nods of respect and perfect scores from a notoriously tough grader. His science fair project on mycorrhizal networks in local forest ecosystems was so thoroughly researched and elegantly presented that it won not only the school prize but an regional award, forcing the principal to call his name a name that sounded foreign and unfamiliar on the auditorium espace system tia, smattering of confused applause. He didn't do it for the recognition. The awards and the grades were merely byproducts of his process. His true reward was the process itself. The satisfaction of solving a difficult problem, the thrill of connecting disparate ideas, the quiet confidence that came from knowing he was building something of substance, something that could not be diminished by the opinions or the indifference of others. His discipline wasn't just academic, it was holistic. He ran every evening, not to compete, but to feel the rhythm of his own breath and the steady beat of his heart. He taught himself to code, not for a future job, but for the joy of creating something from nothing. He was forging himself in a crucible of his own making, and the heat was turning the ignored, silent boy into someone truly exceptional. His outstanding achievements weren't loud pronouncements. They were quiet, undeniable facts that began to speak more loudly than any words he might have uttered in the hallways. Silence can be powerful. The world often mistakes silence for an absence, a void waiting to be filled. But for Leo, silence was not an absence. It was a presence. It was the fertile ground where his thoughts could take root and grow, unhindered by the weeds of distraction. It was the canvas on which he painted his understanding of the world, using colors and shades invisible to the hurried eye. In the quiet, he could hear the subtle hum of the universe, the intricate logic of a mathematical theorem, the emotional resonance of a perfectly crafted sentence, the complex, interconnected life of the forest floor. His silence was a shield that protected his focus from the constant barrage of social noise, allowing him to delve deeper, think clearer, and understand more profoundly than his peers. It was a tool that allowed him to truly listen, not just to his teachers, but to the world and to himself. While others were busy talking, he was busy learning, absorbing, and synthesizing. As his accomplishments began to stack up, a slow, subtle shift occurred in the school's social ecosystem. The whispers about him changed. Weird became brilliant. Loner became focused. The students who once sighed when he was assigned to their group now hoped for his partnership, recognizing that his quiet presence was a guarantee of quality and insight. They didn't understand his world, but they could no longer deny its results. Leo never changed his demeanor. He remained the quiet observer, the ghost in the hallways. He didn't start seeking the spotlight now that it was beginning to find him. But his silence was no longer interpreted as emptiness. It was now seen for what it was, a reservoir of immense strength. It was the quiet of a deep river, whose calm surface belies the powerful current running beneath. His journey was a testament to a forgotten truth in our clamorous world, that true strength does not always roar. Sometimes, it is the quiet, disciplined focus of a single individual that holds the most power, the power to observe, to understand, and ultimately, to become outstanding. His silence was his superpower.